So every single year, my parents would take me to India, or try to at least, just to keep in touch with my roots and learn about the culture, eat their food, meet my family, and I loved it. Every single part of it was so different than what I was used to here in America. Honestly, like, there's some pictures up there of like my family and the places we've been. But there was one thing that always stood out to me, and it was just the children there. Just the sheer amount. If you're walking down the street, you'll see kids selling you food at vendor carts that are much younger than you, or you'll see kids playing on the street. And I always was kind of confused about this. Like, why weren't these kids in school like I was? I was also a little bit jealous, honestly. I mean, they didn't have to really worry about homework or in-class essays, but I don't know, it seemed weird to me. I remember being at my cousin's house, and my cousins had all gone to school that day, so it was my brother and I. And the housekeeper came, and she brought her child with her. And we were playing with the child, and I asked the child why he didn't go to school. And he just physically didn't answer, so I just kind of glossed over it. And I didn't really think much of it because I was so young. One day, I was 8 years old, and we were in India, and we had just gone to the Taj Mahal, and we were coming back out, and we were stuck in Agra traffic. And if you guys know the traffic in India, it can get really rough. And so we were at a standstill, and there were kids weaving in and out trying to sell me things through the car window. And this confused me a lot. And there was this one child in particular, I remember, he was about my age. He could barely see into the car window, and he was selling flowers. And I looked over at my uncle, who was driving the car, and I said, hey, can we buy some? And he told me no, and he told me to not even make eye contact with these kids, just because most of the time, these kids, in his opinion, their parents were drunks or drug users, or just in general, not people you really wanted to sponsor, and the money would go to them. And then I told him that that didn't seem fair, and he said, yeah, and he said that even if their parents were good people, a lot of times the mafia controlled these children, and if we were giving money to them, we would just be sponsoring them, and that wasn't what I wanted. So it just seemed unfair to me. These kids, they didn't do anything wrong. Those kids could easily have been me. They were just born into the wrong situation. And honestly, that just felt so unfair to me. So, a few years later, I was in 5th grade, and we came back, and it was my dad's high school reunion. And I ended up sitting at a table with this woman named Nutan Chaturvedi, my dad's ex-classmate, and I started talking to her, because she was a school teacher herself. And I asked her this question. I said, why are there so many children that aren't in school here like there are in America? And she told me that India does have child labor laws, except the children are just, it's such a norm for those children to be working that it doesn't really register with people. So I told her that that didn't seem fair to me, and I didn't like that. And she said her mother was the same way, and after she retired, her mother, in fact, opened up a school in her own house for kids to come and learn. But due to her unexpected death, it didn't really continue. And although she was trying, there were a lot of hurdles that she wasn't able to overcome because of it. And I asked her more and more about it. I was very curious. And she told me to come to her house and see where she taught them, which was on the roof of her home. So I came, and these are the slums that we passed by right here. And I remember just being completely horrified that people were living in these conditions. And when we met the kids, they seemed so happy just to have what they had, even though it wasn't much at all. And I really, really did want to do something, but we were leaving in 2 days back for Oklahoma City, which is where I'm originally from, and I didn't feel like I could do that much as one person. But we went back and I did what I could, and so I went through our entire house, completely ransacked it, and picked out all the extra pencils and notebooks and art supplies and goodie bags that we had left over. And my dad was going back in a couple months, so I put them all in a bag and I sent it to him, and I said, Dad, please, please just give these kids what I have at my house, even though I can't really do much. And the pictures we got back were just so incredible. These kids, the happiness on their faces from getting just pencils that are decorative with like beautiful erasers, or just they're seeing colored pencils for the first time. Just that happiness, I couldn't explain it. And I wanted to share it with people. And I was young though, So I just did what I would as a 10-year-old, and I went to my friends, and I went to some teachers that I liked, and I just kind of told them about it. And soon we started sending these packages, these care packages, every few months, just my friends and I and just the local people we had. But I wanted to do more because I knew that if I was getting such support from just my group of friends, how other people would respond. And so there was this nonprofit in Oklahoma City. It was called OMRF, or Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. And one day I was reading the newspaper. I don't know why. I don't really read the newspaper, honestly. But I found this little clipping, and it was teen leaders in philanthropy looking for applicants for OMRF. And this was something I had heard about because it's very well known in Oklahoma City. And it's just this program that they have. It's very selective. It usually only takes upperclassmen in high school to teach them the ins and outs of a nonprofit, and to teach them how to make connections and how to fundraise. And it's something I really wanted to do. So even though I knew I didn't really have a shot at it, I tried. And I got in, and I'm right there. Just thought you should know. So then the first step I did was I went to my school community. I went to my chapel, and I gave a chapel talk that very first time. And I told them, I educated them about these children and what I wanted to help. And from the first time, we raised over 40,000 rupees. If that tells you anything, the usual wage every single day for an average person in India is 100 rupees, which is $1.50. So even by raising over $700, we were able to install a computer vocational center with laptops for these kids to keep up with our increasingly connected world, which is just absolutely incredible, something they weren't ever exposed to before. And so I would just do different things like this, and it got bigger and bigger, and then soon I went just from my state to different states. I started spreading the word. So I was a camp counselor this summer, and a lot of kids would leave their clothes in the cabins. Not sure if any of you have been to camp, but a lot of kids just kind of leave everything. And a lot of the times, those clothes are really dirty. So Goodwill and things don't want to take those clothes because they're actually nasty. They're dirt. They're actually dirt covered. And so I went and I realized, wow, kids in India, a lot of these kids, they wouldn't come because Nuthan Auntie would teach on top of her roof. And in the winter, they didn't have the clothes to want to come because they would just get too cold. It was just bad weather for them. So I saw these clothes and I thought, wow, I can take them and use them. So I brought them all home, trash bags upon trash bags, and I washed all these clothes and folded them. And then this winter when we went to India, I brought that to them, and the smiles on their faces were just, I can't even tell you, it was amazing. Jan Jagrati has really expanded from when we first started, if you've seen it. Now we have over 60 kids that come every day after school. Other organizations have gotten involved. On the left, if you can see that, we have a local teacher who just teaches karate, and he went, I want to teach the older kids karate so they have something wholesome to hold on to. And he even teaches the girls self-defense, which is really important. And not only that, we've had a lot of kids go through this program who have just done incredible things. We had a girl just recently who got into an accelerated computer programming program, which was incredible. And we've had 2 go into engineering. But not only that, I feel on a very human level, there are other little accomplishments that we have almost every day. There's one girl who was about to get married off when she was 13, and we convinced her parents to keep her in school and to study and keep her education going. We taught them the importance of education, which is very important. Or there was another child that I met this winter, and he was such an incredible artist, but he hadn't gone to school for a few years because there's a sickness in his family which left them penniless, and he had to work to help his family get out of that poverty. But he had just gotten admission into school last week, which is really incredible. So this winter, I went to a place called Fatehpur Sikri, which is this really important city, and it's beautiful, and it was founded by the great Mughal Emperor Akbar. And there's a place called Buland Darwaza, which is this beautiful gateway on the left, and it's to get into the palace inside in the tomb where Akbar is actually buried. So we went there, and I loved it, but there's just one thing that kind of ruined that. So on the left, this was the cart that we had to take this horse cart that we had to take to get there. There's a child there, he's about 9 years old, and he was working, and that really unsettled me. And then if you see, that's my brother and I, it's kind of, and you can see these kids that were just kind of running around or trying to sell you things while you were there. And there was this one child in particular I remember. He was about like this tall. He was tiny. He was probably 6 years old. He didn't have shoes on. And he kept following my family around and asking, hey, like, can I recite these poems for you? It'll only be like 5 rupees, I swear. Like, I can do it. And this kid seemed really bright to me. He seemed really persuasive. And so I asked him, I said, hey, are you in school? And he said, I used to be in school, but my school was for impoverished children who run by French missionaries, and I was the top of my class in math too, but I didn't know French, so they didn't pass me. And then they took me out of school so I could earn money for my family. And then I said, okay, can you show me like what math you know? Can you say your times tables? And he was like, yeah, I can say my times tables. And then I was like, all right, can you do it for me? And he started rattling off his like times tables up to 12, just like quicker than I could do, quite honestly. And like while he was doing it, this like crowd of tourists started like just circling around him, and that day he got more money than he ever would saying those poems. And I saw the spark in his eyes that, wow, education is important. I can do something with my education. People can understand that. And so the problem is obviously still there. There's so many children out there, like these kids, who are still working, who haven't learned the importance of education just because they don't have the luxury to do so. So I want to leave you all with this. Even if you think that you really can't do anything and you're just one person, if you're passionate enough about something, it takes one person to change the world, and you can easily be that one person. Thank you.